Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Welcome everyone, this is Mary Scott and you are on the Personal Development Hub. A big welcome to you today for joining us live. We're always grateful for live participation. A very special woman, and this happens, my other screen comes and talks to me, so I've got rid of that. This woman that I have waiting in the wings is a real treat to listen to. So I'd like you to listen attentively, put some comments in, say hello. I'd like to introduce you today, Leisa McKenzie, who is in South Australia. So if you're looking at Australia, especially if you don't live here, she's kind of in the middle somewhere. And she is a certified hypnotherapist, woohoo to her, and also a mindset coach. Welcome, Leisa. How are you?
Hi, Mary. Hi, everyone.
How are you today? Are you nervous?
I'm a little bit nervy. I'm doing very well, though.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for giving up your time today. I know you're a very busy woman. You do all sorts of wonderful things. So let's kick off. What do you remember was the first thing that got you interested in your own personal development? Was there a moment in time, or when, were you 6? Were you 26? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think I was, from an early age, being an avid reader, I was learned a lot of things. I couldn't get answers to questions, so I read from a very early age. So I was sort of floating in and out of it, and things would strike my curiosity. So, of course, with curiosity, the more you try to find out, the more questions you get. And so it goes on and on. But as a young adult, I had a family very young, and I used to go into bookshops and go to the personal help section or personal development. I would always get drawn to that section, and then something would jump out at me. So that sort of went on and off throughout my life. And then things changed suddenly when I hit about 50.
Okay, well, so you're an avid reader. Obviously, you like the hard copy book.
I do, although in recent years more of it's been podcasts and online, but I like the book because you can disappear into a book. You go into that other dimension, and you're also part of what's going on in the book. You're an observer as well as a participant, but then no one is asking anything of you.
Oh, I like that. Yes, you're a participant and you're an observer. That's lovely. I like that. Do you think that's true as well in life? We become the participant and we also have the choice to be the observer?
Well, I tried very hard to be an observer for many years, tried to not get too involved because I always felt like I was a little bit different to what was going on with everyone else. So I used to sort of try and stay in the background, but it doesn't work that way. You have to get involved.
Wow, so you're actually a background person, and you're here today, which is not in the background. How do you feel about that? It's a bit of a shift.
Well, it's something I've been working on for a few years now. It's very, very different. So there was one pinnacle moment. I was going to a seminar about finding your passion, and it was just a small little seminar room with probably about 100 people in it, and I walked in there and I just had this sudden energy come over me and a little voice said, "This is what you're meant to be doing."
Oh, wow.
So I knew right there and then that really started me actively deciding what it was, what my passion was, what I was going to do, and just strap in for the ride instead of trying to define everything before it comes.
Oh, there's a good tip. Do you remember what you said? Strap in for the ride instead of, what was it, preparing for what might come?
Instead of trying to define
Yep.
what happens before it comes.
That's fantastic. So when you step in for the ride, what's that like? What's your experience of that?
Well, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea. I just knew that, hang on, this is what you're meant to be doing. You're meant to be in front of people, teaching and learning and being the best example that you can be. That was the basis that I went forward on. And so I knew mindset was the key very early on, and I had been working on that for a long time. But I was one of those people that did a lot of training, a lot of seminars and things like that, but never thought I'd be ever ready to do anything. Always wanted to do something. But that day when I walked into that room, that was just, hang on, there's something going on here. You need to get involved.
And how long ago would that have been? Do you remember?
That was 2019, that moment.
Oh, not that long ago.
No.
How exquisite is that? And do you think that was your intuition, or what, or was it just when things came together and you got the message? Or was it from spirit? What would you say about it?
It was an energy. It was like things aligning energy-wise, and just like when things align, you glow. And something just glowed in my mind and said, hey, you know, this is it. You're getting there. You're going to make it. This is what you're meant to do.
Oh, wow. And you've followed that pretty much, haven't you, from that day?
Yeah, I have.
Would you
Yes,
say it's a mission? It's a mission that you've got on now.
Yes, it is. It is a mission.
That's fantastic. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no. And I just started with simple little things, because I was trying to, like, the journey really started at around the time I turned 50. Lots of things in my life just went south very, very quickly after building a life for more than 20 years. So I then decided I wanted to, the initial step was to find extra income, which led me to mindset. And so then I was following the mindset path. And I was just observing online and attending seminars and things like that. So I was listening to someone one day, and they said, you need to, don't just observe, take action. You don't want any regrets at the end of your life, something along those lines. And that's what spurred me on to the, all right, well, let's find out what this passion is. I've got passion, but I don't know what it's called. I don't know what shape it takes. I don't know anything. I just know I've got something to say and the world needs to hear it. And that's what led me to that conference in 2019. So for about 8 years, I was sort of just pedaling away, and then I had that pinnacle moment. And that's taken me on this path that I'm on now.
Isn't that lovely? That's very exciting. You know, one thing you said before, Lisa, was you had questions. This is when earlier on in your life, and you were looking for the answers in the books. Is that what you said?
I was, yes. That was my one thing I knew I did very, very well. So that was the way that I negotiated everything through the books, through finding the people that have the right information.
Does that make you a good researcher?
I do a lot of research, but I go down a lot of rabbit holes. So I need to be very conscious of not getting caught up, because in the early days I would focus on something and then next minute you'd divert off to something else, and then you'd be nowhere near where you wanted to be. So doing that type of research, you have to define what your focus is from the beginning and just stay on track.
Ah, well said. Define your focus in the beginning and stay on track. There's a little treat. If you are listening to us live right now, obviously you are in the Personal Development Hub, our Facebook group, private group, devoted to personal development and the growth of all of us here. We're heading towards 700 in our community. And if you are listening and you're new, a particularly big welcome to you. And I am talking today to Leisa McKenzie, who is a certified hypnotherapist and a mindset coach. And stay tuned. If you've got any questions, Leisa will come on later. She'll answer them. She's already given some very good tips about personal development and also about herself. Leisa, let's go back to you. Tell me more with the questions about life and the universe. Do you remember what they were all about, what you were searching for back then?
I was very fascinated by, in childhood and later on as a young adult, there were some issues that I had, and I was fascinated by why people do the things they do, and fascinated by habits. So I was getting into wondering why people think the way they do, people behave the way they do. So that was pulling me down the psychology path. What can I learn more about psychology? But then what I found was if I sit for a little bit with a particular question and then ask myself a question, so why does this happen or why does that happen? In a very short period of time, that answer comes to you, because you psychologically go, okay, I'm searching for an answer to that thing, and then I believe your mind will take you to the answer that you're looking for.
That's beautiful, isn't it? So what you're saying is that the answers are within. They're not out there. They're here.
The answers to change are within. Anything you want change starts from within, yes. But I'm saying if you've got a question about something, ask yourself within, just sit with it and say, well, how do people form these habits? Or how does someone become a drug addict? Or, that person is very successful. How do they gain success? And if you sit with that for a little while and then just go on with your daily life, you'll end up listening to a podcast, or you'll read some material, or you will get onto one of your groups and that subject will come up before you and you'll get the answer you're looking for.
Okay, so it's not just from within. You're talking about law of attraction, aren't you? You're saying that you ask the question, you sit, you reflect, and before you know it, the answer's provided in a podcast or something that comes across your desk or comes across, let's say, the internet. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a name for it. That's just the way my mind operates. But I know that my mind will take me where I need to go if there's something I need to know or something I need to look for. It could be law of attraction, it could be spirit guide, it could be whatever name you want to put on it, that's fine. I don't like to label a lot of things because that puts things in lanes. And then when you put things in lanes, sometimes you're not prepared to expand the possibilities. But it's very personal, and it's whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, lovely.
I've never discussed it with anyone else before, and I've never asked anyone, what is this thing that happens that I do? So
and now we're discussing it publicly in this group. Oh my gosh, good for you. I like it. I like the approach. The other thing that I'm loving is that you're very confident that if you follow this process of going into your mind or sitting quietly, that an answer will be found. Is that true? Yes. That's beautiful to have that much confidence. And the other word that goes with that, I think, is you're also having faith in the process, aren't you?
Yes, faith is very important. Very important.
Because do you think that you need a lot of patience to have faith?
You need to acknowledge faith. Now, a lot of people get faith mixed up with religion, and that's fine if you want to choose that path and say, right, my faith is external, I believe in this religion. I find with that, based on my own experience, that eventually there will be some sort of conflict if your faith is external. To me, faith is within. You need to start with yourself, and you need to have faith within yourself. And that is a foundation. If everything is built on faith from within, that's the foundation that everything else comes from.
Wow. When did you learn that? That's quite profound what you're saying, isn't it? You're talking about faith from within, and everything else comes from that. When did you learn that? Do you remember the time when you learned that? It's quite a strong sense of self, actually.
Well, I used to, so from a very early age, I had a big issue with religion because I used to go to school as a little girl, ask the minister lots of questions, and he never had answers for me, and I got thrown out of religion class. And
wow. And how old were you then?
Oh, very, very young, very young. I was probably 7, 8.
And you were thrown out of religion class for asking too many questions.
Yeah, so the minister used to come once a week, and it was only for an hour, I think, but I used to say, well, that's not right. How do you get the camel through the eye of a needle, How do you feed everyone in the desert with the loaves and fishes and all of those things? And he never answered any questions. He just, be quiet, go outside, I'm preaching to the converted type of thing.
And so you were thrown out at 7. That must have been character.
Yes, I used to have to go and sit in the headmaster's office and everything, and I never ever got into trouble for anything. That was the only time I was separated from the class. But that started me thinking, what is this religious thing about if we're supposed to all go along and believe but not question? And so as I grew up, I kept thinking, well, you're going to have to choose some sort of faith-based religion, because I'm going to be an outsider if I don't. I won't be one of the community, I won't be accepted, and that's the only way I can be accepted. And I always thought that was the reason behind why I was different, because I would look into religions. I did a lot of reading about religion, read all sorts of books, and I would always hit snags about, hang on, yeah, that's not right. Yeah, hang on, that's not right. And so I formed this understanding about religion, what it was around, what it was based on, like all religion. And So as I grew up in later years, I worked out what my values were and morals and lived my life that way. But every now and then I would sort of think, oh, I'm just going to have to go and join a church or find my people and join them, because it's got to be better than having to question everything all the time.
Right. So is that where the faith came in?
And so then I thought, hang on a minute. I asked another question. I said to myself, so can faith come from within? I know that change comes from within. Can faith come from within? And I've just thought about it for a long time, and I realised that you need to have faith in your life, because I was going along linking faith with religion and then wiping it out. No, religion's not good. But that's not true. There was faith long before there was religion.
And you're defining it, aren't you? You're saying there's that kind of faith that people talk about, which is of the religious kind. And then you're talking about faith that comes from within. This was the discovery that you made. Wow. So how old were you when you were thinking all these things? This is great information.
Well, I was probably about, I would have been in my 30s.
That's fantastic.
When I was working all this out. And so I decided that, hey, how about I just have faith in myself, and that will be my foundation. And so things started to change in a very big way for me then, because I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to focus. I had all the answers I needed at the time. And what I was, if I was looking for anything, I knew it was going to come to me. So I just lent into the faith. And I now understand you can't really do a lot without faith. It's a very troubled life if you don't have faith. And if you choose that to be a religion, that's fine. That's the way you operate and that's your thing. That's fine. I would never say to anyone, that's not how you do it. I found the way, because that's how they do it. They found their way. I found my way. You found your way. But yeah, you need to start with faith within yourself, and that will be your solid foundation.
I like that. Faith within yourself is the solid foundation. So if you've got that, you can go about doing other things, but you can always return to that. Is that what you mean?
Well, that will be the solid base there all the time. So whenever you fall down, faith will be there. Like, it's there in everything you do, everything you say.
So if you falter, you've got faith in yourself that can allow you to rise back up.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's really good. That I like that. I've religious about religion is not always a good place to go on these sorts of things, but I think today the purpose of learning and hearing your definition of your faith, it was beautiful, the journey you took us on. And faith in yourself, I mean, that must have meant that you fell over a few times, because I think that if you think about the opposite of faith is no confidence, just falling over, getting up, falling over, getting up. But if you've got faith, when you fall over, you have faith and you get back up. So you fell over a few times, skinned your nose and your knees.
Yes.
So how then has faith informed you of major decisions in your life? Because you mentioned values and morals, and I think they're in there somewhere. And I'm just wondering if we can capture that.
Well, it's not one simple answer for anything. So the main values that come to the fore when you're talking about mindset. So this is how I operate. So I've got faith in myself, faith that I'm in control of everything, every decision I make, so that I'm responsible for everything that good happens. And if anything bad happens, I put myself there for a reason, and then that gives you cause to analyse. But you've got that foundation of faith, so you can't, it's like a cloak or an armour.
Yep.
And then there's spirituality. So that is for your internal energy. So you need to acknowledge your spirituality. That works in, then there's heart. So where every conversation and every action comes from, it's got to come from your heart, otherwise it's not genuine. And then your soul, you've got to check in with your soul, and your soul tells you how you're traveling at the moment. Now that's a very small part. So they're four of my values.
Lovely.
That underpin my belief system. And those things can change. It depends on whatever's happening with you at the moment. I mean, over the years, I've changed. You know, I thought spirituality was the thing for a long, long time. That was before, and I used to think, well, hang on, I'm pretty spiritual, but why am I allowing this to happen? Why am I allowing that to happen? And that's when I found, well, you don't have faith in your life. You don't have faith in anything because you linked faith to religion. It's not religion. It's an internal grounding. Yes. That you need to have.
Wow, this is fantastic. And if you are watching here live, thank you so much. Don't go away, because there's some real treasures being uncovered here about confidence, about faith, about passion. And I think that what we're doing is we're talking about purpose. There seems to be, we haven't mentioned it yet. So if you've got comments or accolades, and say, good on you, Leisa, anything like that, do put them in the comments. So what about purpose? Where does this fit with all this, Leisa?
Well, I always thought I didn't know what my purpose was. But in funny ways, I was always living my purpose. But when I got this structure, when I worked on my values and it's not, you don't have to do anything to work on your values. You just have to decide what they're going to be.
It's that simple.
It can be.
That was a considered response. That was good. I like that. It can be. So what informs you about this then?
What informs
you? How do you make your decisions? Informs you. What informs your process?
What informs me?
Yeah.
Well, that's just how I've learned over the years, and this is where I operate from. So if you have a conversation with me, you know that I'm operating from a place of faith and spirituality and heart and soul, it just, that's what guides me and leads me to where I need to be. Yeah.
You have such clarity with this. This is refreshing. Do you think that out there then, because we've got people in this group from all walks of life, predominantly females, but there's some brave males in here as well. What would you say to them? Because you've got a lot of clarity about how you live your life, your fundamentals, your foundations. What if people listening here don't feel like they have got what you've got? What would you say to them today?
Well, you can question those values. that I've stated, or if you want to decide that there are other things that are more important for you. I don't normally have conversations about my values and my purpose and things like that. It's been a very, very private journey. I have a few friends, and I'm in some groups where we can share that type of information. But it's a very personal thing for me. One of the things you have to do is, and this can be, I know, a big hurdle for people, is you need to be very accepting of everybody. You need to just come from a place, as I said, from the heart, come from a place of love and acceptance, and just understand that there are people that will do things that you will never understand. There are people that will say things that you will never understand. That comes from their position. It's not actually the person it's being directed at's problem. It is the person where it comes from, and you know that there's some pain or some damage or something that needs to be worked on from that person. So, people can stand back and say, well, hang on, this is happening, that's happening. How can you say, come from a place of love? But you have to have that as a foundation. And then that helps you to understand, yes, there are people that say and do things, and those people do need help. And you're not responsible. Don't take on the baggage of what others are trying to put onto you.
Oh, I've got to capture that. Don't take on the baggage that others are trying to put onto you. So differentiate between your baggage and their baggage.
Yep.
And don't take it on if it's not yours, give it back. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Beautifully said. I think I interrupted you, but I think that's a very valuable tool right there. That's, as they say, gold. We're going to add something to that before I rudely interrupted.
No, well, I was just going to say the same thing in a different way. Like, don't volunteer to carry someone else's burden. And that's with everything. I mean, and this is like, we've got to teach kids to do that, especially in these day and age with social media and things like that. They need to be taught that you can't, don't take those things seriously. Don't think that the actions of others against you is your burden to carry, because what they're saying or demonstrating is about them. It's not about you. And that's where we find some big problems happening now, where people are just taking on the burden that doesn't belong to them. Give it back.
Well said, beautifully said. And I think the fact that there is still people doing that every day, and that they're in our universe, if you like, shows you then the struggle of some of just people that are not exposed. And I feel, honestly, I don't know how you feel, but I feel privileged to have had so much exposure to personal development. And yes, some of that has come about through massive adversity in my life, but I still feel privileged because I've had an opportunity to look through a particular window.
Yes, I agree. I used to think about like some of the problems that I've had growing up and throughout my younger adult life. I used to think that those situations prevented me from being who I should have been. And so I lived a little bit sort of resentful because I never got to be who I was supposed to be. And then when I got clarity about some of those values I was talking about, I thought, hang on, you are the person you are meant to be, but you're an even better version because you've had experiences and been in conditions that have exposed you to things that not everybody gets. So it's more of there's been more value added to what I can give to others through those experiences.
Beautiful. I agree. So the life events, life experiences create who we are today.
Yes.
And what I'm hearing is that you have deliberated on some of these at quite a deep level with yourself and through, I was going to say research, but I think exploration is probably a better word. Would that be correct? And do you think that it's a worthy path?
Yes. I mean, I don't wish any ill feeling or any adversity or anything on anybody. But it just gives you a different perspective. I mean, we all go through things. Everybody has their issues, ups and downs, whatever that may be. We've all got different things that happened in our past. And I think that's why there's so many coaches out there coaching from that slightly different perspective to me, so they can help a particular people with particular issues. And then I've got my group of people that I help because I have a slightly different perspective. Yeah. And I'd imagine you're very much the same.
So going back to what informs because we started at values and passion and all that. And so a lot of that is informing that opinion that you just had, that there's coaches and people out there that, well, we're all different. I guess that's kind of cool, isn't it? Because when you think of the experiences we've had, your journey and my journey, then your story, my story, there's such opportunity in that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, yes.
And is it your observation or your belief that everyone takes that? Do they see that opportunity? Do they seize it? Do they see it and do they seize it? Or do you think sometimes it's wasted?
I think everyone needs to think about, am I living to my full potential? And if I'm not living to my full potential, what is my full potential and how can I get there?
So ask myself, am I living to my full potential? If I'm not, ask myself, if not, how do I get there? That's great.
If you're not happy with the place you're in now, then that's the question you've got to ask. Am I living to my full potential? If you've got everything imaginable, if you've got, the kids you wanted, or the romance you wanted, or the career you wanted, and you're just not happy, you need to think, well, is this my full potential? Hang on, there's some changes that need to be done here. Let's go out and find an answer.
You think everyone takes that path, or do you think, and you've listened to some of these recordings and you've heard me say it, do you think there's still lots of people out there tiptoeing through life hoping to safely make it to death?
Yes, I do believe that, yes. Because, and I know where they come from a place of, I've got to do the right thing. I've got to do my parents instill values in me that, work hard, get the job, do the family, and that's not always the case. That's not what your path is meant to be. And so you find that people later in life start questioning, well, hang on, have I done the right thing? I've got the kids, I've got the family, the career, the love life, whatever it is, I've got all of that. Why do I feel so bad? And then, I mean, the question everyone asks, the simple question is, I'm not happy. Why am I not happy? You know, that's the big, we get caught up as a society, well, in the Western world anyway, with this happiness step. We put ourselves a barrier of happiness and say, well, that's where I have to be. But people don't realise, first you need to define what happiness is and where it comes from. Before you turn around and say, well, hang on, I need to be happy, I need to get the thing, I need to meet the person, I need to have this, you know, hang on, what is happiness? I think that's what we should teach in school to young kids. You learn everything you need to know in the world, you will learn from children. Everything.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Define what happiness is and where it comes from. And I think if you ask yourself that question, a lot of problems will be solved. It won't happen overnight, but you'll know where to go from there.
Ask yourself, where does this come from?
Yeah, where does happiness come from?
Where does happiness come from? Yes, what a lovely place to start. Oh my gosh, you're a wise woman. You are bringing lots to the table today. We unfortunately are out of time, but I want to ask one more thing of you. Is there one little bit of wisdom that you could give the people in our Personal Development Hub today? Would you like to give us one little treasure of yours to end us off today?
Okay, so I have a little mantra, and it's called to be, to share, to give.
Be, to share, to give, yeah.
And to be is to inspire, to share is to encourage, and to give is to empower. Now that's my little mantra that I use, and that's how I interpret it, but you can interpret it any way you like. So, but I think if you can give yourself a little bit of a mantra or a saying, and one of the other things I created a long time ago when I learnt about gratitude, that hit me between the eyes one day, was, I had it written down, but I can't find it. Where gratitude walks, joy always follows.
Oh, that'll do us. Gratitude walks, joy always follows.
Yes.
That is so beautiful. Well, Leisa, what a treat. I've learned some things about you today. It's been a real pleasure. And I know that if you've been listening to this, and if you happen to watch the replay, everyone out there, be sure to send Leisa some messages, some questions, some comments, and give her lots of clapping and accolades, because I know you're nervous. How are you feeling now? You feel like you've done pretty well?
I feel really good.
Well, thank you once again for giving up your time today. I'm very appreciative, because I know time is of the essence, and it's also something we can never get back. So thanks again. And this is Mary Scott from the Personal Development Hub. If you've really enjoyed this today, even if you've enjoyed a little bit, we would love to hear from you. If you're watching the replay, please put #replay. Now, we have these live interviews every Tuesday. They're different times around the world, depending where our guests live, to correlate with me here in Australia. But do come and say hello. Do have an opinion, because this is what our group's all about. Having opinion about personal development, sharing perspectives. And thanks again, Leisa. And I know I'll be talking to you again very soon. And thanks, everyone, for watching. Have a beautiful rest of the day.
Thanks, Mary.
This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.